Irish Guy, and how has your week been? Because me, I've just seen Declan Rice captain his club to a European trophy before watching Jack Grealish clinch the treble. So I'm not bitter and crying behind my smile. Not at all! But as the season is over, and right now, I'm going to go through each one of Europe's major leagues and find each division's bottle job. No, not the worst team, not the biggest disgrace, just each country's team who threw it all away. Which honestly must hurt more than being a joke team all season long, because I mean, by mid-March, I reckon Chelsea fans are just starting to laugh at their own results, but it's the clubs who absolutely choked, like a toddler eating a lasagna filled with Lego. It's those fans who spent this summer crying into their breakfast. Right, let's go. Serie A Udinese. So, how are you spending your summer? Standing in your back garden, shoving an ice cream in your mouth whilst pissing on the daffodils, whilst your dogs bark at the cows? Well, if you're a Udinese fan, I can only guess, and this is just a guess, that you'll spend the next 3 months angrily punching holes in your car, maybe chucking a bowling ball through your neighbor's window, anything to release the absolute rage they must feel. Honestly, if you know a Udinese fan, don't sit down to have breakfast with them. I mean, would you pour a bowl of Cheerios for the Incredible Hulk? Or that beast off Split? Not if you value having a working spine. Poor Udinese. They had 2 Irish footballers in their squad. Fullbacks Festi Abasele and James Abankwa. They also had a Tottenham fullback Destiny Udogie, who's actually had a very good season. Although, who names their child Destiny? What, does he also have a Beyonce tattoo in his thigh? Lads, the Udinese squad actually had players called Destiny and Success. I can only imagine the club chairman is obsessed with horoscopes. But listen, this has been an incredible season for Napoli. It could have been that for Udinese. Go back to early October. Udinese had just won 6 league games in a row. They had thumped Roma and Jose Mourinho by 4 goals to 0. They'd comfortably stuck 3 past Inter Milan. You know, the team who went on to reach the Champions League final? When Jaka Bidol scored that 93rd minute winner away to Hellas Verona, Udinese were 3rd in the league. Just 1 point off Napoli at the top. It was their best ever start to a Serie A season. The fans were dreaming of the title, or at least the Champions League. The new manager, Andrea Sottil, looked like a managerial genius. His 3-5-2 formation was destroying Serie A, and then it all collapsed. You know, in Space Jam, the aliens and basketball players swapped their talents? That's what happened here. Because back in early October, Juventus, after a sloppy start where they won 1 in 6, suddenly they won 8 games in a row, while Udinese didn't win for 10 matches. A 10-game winners run sounds pretty rubbish, right? But it gets worse. Udinese scrapped a late 88th minute win away at Sampdoria in January. That was their only Serie A win in a run of 17 games. From October 3rd to March 11th, 1 league win. It's pathetic. There's a team who beat both Milan Giants 3-1 at home, and yet, even ending the season, they fed their dignity to a paralyzed snail, losing the last 4 games to wind up 12th. Imagine those fans dreaming of the title at Halloween, and in reality, they didn't even finish top half. What a joke! La Liga Real Madrid. Look, an honorable mention for Real Valladolid. You know, the club owned by Ronaldo, who last summer were dreaming about buying both Marcelo and Dani Alves to put at full backs. And then one of them has decided to spend this season instead just eating cheeseburgers on some prison mattress, whilst probably holding the pocket of some Paraguayan nutcase who got 20 years for eating his own mum. Listen, Valladolid were 14th in mid-April. Then they lost 5 games in a row, and then they recovered to beat Barcelona 3-1 at home, and then followed up with 2 limp 0-0 draws to finish 18th, including one against Almeria, who finished 17th and stayed up by a point. Imagine getting relegated by a point just 2 weeks after beating Barcelona. I'm guessing Ronaldo is probably so angry and devastated he probably won't eat for a month. Who are you kidding? He's probably knee deep in chicken wings already. But the answer has to be Real Madrid still. They began the season by winning 10 of the first 11 games, including a pretty comfy, easy win in El Clasico. They should have run away with the league. But Carlo Ancelotti's men, who were supposed to be the best team on the planet, were so sloppy you'd swear you were watching Bruce Willis tucking into a pie on the bus, losing to Rayo Vallecano, Villarreal, Mallorca, Barcelona, Villarreal again, Real Sociedad. Lads, Valencia have been absolute wet mush all season long, and even they beat Real Madrid. Real are supposed to be the biggest club in the world, and yet Tati Castellanos, some average Girona forward on loan from New York, he scored 4 past them alone in one single match. The likes of Osasuna, Girona, Real Sociedad, Atletico Madrid, and and Athletic Bilbao all left the Bernabeu with a point. I know they won the Copa del Rey, Club World Cup and UEFA Super Cup, yes, but they lost the Super Copa de España final to Barcelona and were absolutely demolished 4-0 by Man City in the Champions League, and to finish 10 points behind Xavi's Barcelona, a club who were supposed to be in a financial crisis. A club only 2 years ago were forced to break up with their GOAT. Christ, that just makes him sound like an inbred farmer from Plymouth. But still, it's embarrassing. Ancelotti, watch your back, because honestly, I reckon he gets sacked before Halloween. Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund. It feels harsh chucking Borussia Dortmund in here, considering that, last summer they lost Erling Haaland, while his replacement Sebastian Haller spent the first half of the season out sick, and yet they still scored goals for fun. It is so harsh to blame Dortmund for not winning the Bundesliga title when they were only actually at the top of the league 3 weeks of the entire season, but I'm sorry. Don't forget just how absolutely wet pudding Bayern Munich have been. I mean, they actually weren't that underwhelming when Julian Nagelsmann was at the wheel, but when Thomas Tuchel took his job, he's had all the impact of wet toast. He failed to beat Hoffenheim at home, lost 3-1 away to Mainz, and lads, last home game of the season, and they lose 3-1 at home to RB Leipzig. All Dortmund had to do was just beat Mainz at home, and then they would win the league. Lads, this should have been a formality. Dortmund has scored a combined 15 goals in their previous 3 league games at home, and since beating Bayern, Mainz had just lost 4 in a row, conceding 13. And so, what do Dortmund do? They choose to leave Bellingham on the bench. If he was injured, he wouldn't have been in the squad, so no, he was on the bench. So what? So he wouldn't shatter his pelvis and ruin that £100 million move to Real Madrid? Dortmund go 1-0 down, sure. Then they get a penalty 4 minutes later. Haller misses. Then they go 2-0 down. Sure, Rafael Guerreiro pulls one back for Dortmund. But then they proceed to miss chance after chance after chance. Honestly, forget the Steven Gerrard slip. Marco Reus will think about that missed header until the day he winds up in a nursing home and suddenly he thinks that toast goes up your nose. Nicolas Soule salvaged a 96-minute equalizer, yeah, but no. They still lost the title on goal difference. It's not just that either. They were given a 1-goal lead in a Champions League round of 16 over a Chelsea team in crisis. And yet somehow went out of the competition to a team coached by Graham Potter. Not to mention their last defeat of the season was against Bayern on April 1st when at 0-0 the Dortmund goalie Gregor Kobel runs out of his goal to completely miss the ball. And it just rolls into the back of the net. Bayern go on to score 4, and I can only imagine that goalie went home that night and bit a chunk out of his own mattress. League on Monaco. Does anyone reckon Philippe Clement can look himself in the mirror and be proud of his work this season? Forget Phil Clement. This is more the work of Paul Clement. This former Genk manager is supposed to be the Monaco savior. Lads, he took over in January 2022, and ever since beating PSG 3-0 on the 20th of March, they only dropped 2 points in the final 10 league games. This former Coventry defender looked like the real deal at the Stade Louis. No longer did he just look like some skinny Humpty Dumpty hiding in a Belgian village. And then, horrible start to this season, losing 4-1 at home to Lens, then losing 4-2 at home to Troyes, but then they picked up. They stuck 5 wins in a row on the board. They slowly recovered, gained some momentum, and so by the time they were beating PSG 3-1 at home to sit 3rd in the league, it was like deja vu. Just like the previous year, surely this confidence boosting monster win over PSG would then put them on a 9-game winning streak again and challenge for the league. Qualification for the Champions League at the very least. And then they imploded, losing 3-0 at home to Nice, a team with Ross Barkley in midfield. Then they failed to beat Troyes. Clement was tactically outwitted by Will Still, some bloke who's probably married to his laptop. Monaco in the spring were a disgrace. 7 defeats, including a 4-0 spanking at home to Montpellier. They lost their last 3 league games to wind up 6th, which doesn't even qualify you for the Europa Conference League. If they had just beaten Toulouse at home on the final day, they'd have squeaked some European football, but no. Those fans will now probably just spend their midweek nights next season, I don't know, watching the French EastEnders and having to chat to their wife. It's not just in the league where they've been bottled jobs either. They went out of the French Cup, losing at home on penalties to lowly Rodez from League 2. A football team were about as scary as a tin of baked beans. They were also 2 minutes away from qualifying for the Champions League in August, before bottling the playoff against PSV, winding up in the Europa League, where they were embarrassed by Ferencváros from Hungary, conceded 4 in Turkey to Trabzonspor, and then they won the first leg of the round 32 against Bayer Leverkusen 3-2 away from home, and then undid all that hard work by losing 3-2 at home, and again losing on penalties. I'm sorry, Clement, but this season, exposed. Premier Liga Porto. Lads, Porto won the Premier Liga title a year ago, finishing nearly 20 points above Benfica. Then Benfica are forced to sell Darwin Núñez to Liverpool last summer. In January, they had Enzo Fernandez ripped out of the midfield by Chelsea. Surely this league title was there for the taking, with 100% ease. But Porto bottled it. They only lost once last season, but here, 3 league defeats, including a massively costly 1-0 loss to Benfica in October. Stefan Estagui, a 26-year-old midfielder from Canada. He was sent off for Porto after just 27 minutes in that match. Considering that was ultimately the game which cost him the league, I can only imagine he's going to spend this summer crying into his tea. Lads, Porto lost the league title by just 2 points. To me, I don't even think that Benfica loss was the biggest disgrace. It was the very next match, dropping 2 points in a 1-1 draw at Santa Clara. Santa Clara is what, just some Portuguese beach that finished rock bottom of the league, and Porto couldn't even beat them? Some Mediterranean club med? Losing home to Gil Vicente in January was a bottle job too, because Porto had 2 men sent off. Also, I'm gonna say this. Yes, they recovered from losing 4-0 home to Club Brugge in the Champions League. To get their act together, score a bunch of goals, top of the group, and then anticlimactically failed to score even once against Inter Milan, and again, had 2 men sent off over both legs. It's not been a good season at all. Premier League Arsenal. I'm sorry, I know this is harsh. I feel mean even saying this, because Arsenal have had an incredible season. They have. Nobody can tell me that they haven't. But they were top of the league for 30 game weeks, and the way they ended this season, it wasn't great. 3 draws in a row against Liverpool, West Ham and Southampton, conceding 4 at the Etihad, losing 3-0 at home to Brighton, taking 0 points from Nottingham Forest. I mean, before this ugly run, they'd won 7 in a row. Lads, all season long, the Arsenal fans were telling the world that at the very least, they would take the title race until the final day, but no, they didn't. And lads, let's be real. Arsenal should have won the Europa League. They were the best team in that tournament, and yet they still went out in the first knockout round, losing on penalties at home to Sporting Lisbon, where they conceded a goal from about 50 yards. And don't forget they went out in the first round of the League Cup at home to Brighton, and the only team they beat in the FA Cup was Oxford. I mean, really? And if you want to forget about that title run-in, I think losing to Sean Dyche's Everton in February, that was a bottle job alone. Super League, Istanbul Basaksehir. Istanbul Basaksehir have messed things up. This is a team who last season recovered from losing their first 4 league games to wind up finishing 4th and qualifying for Europe. They ended the season with no defeats in the final 8 games, and then began this season with no defeats in the first 8 games. That is 16 games in a row of 0 defeats. These fans were expecting a title challenge. I mean, lads, they were top in October, and then oh, this team absolutely melted like a birthday cake in the sun. They soon lost to Sivasspor, Fenerbahce, and then, embarrassingly, in a city derby, hammered 7-0 at home by Galatasaray. Lads, this team has spent the first half of the season inside the top 3. Surely they were going to qualify for Europe, but no, they bottled this, going on a run of 1 measly win in 8 games to finish 5th. And bear in mind, they were dumped out of the Europa Conference League in the first knockout round, conceding 4 at home to Ghent. They lost the Turkish Cup final to Fenerbahce, where they let Michy Batshuayi score inside the first minute. Just a complete mess. Scottish Premiership Hearts. Hearts bottled it. I'm sorry, but they did. Sure, they wound up finishing 4th, which qualifies them for the Europa Conference League qualifying round. But how did they not finish 3rd and gain entry to the Europa League qualification round? I have no earthly idea. After 28 weeks of the season, the team were 3rd on 45 points, 7 clear of Aberdeen. This team had recently gone on a 9-game unbeaten run. And then look, 8 defeats in 11 games, including 5 in a row. And also, go back to the Europa League playoff round in August against FC Zurich. They actually got 1-0 up in Switzerland before losing 2-1 in the first leg, and then in the second leg, Jorge Grant gets sent off and they lose 1-0 before absolutely getting toasted by a sausage roll in the Conference League, conceding 16 in 6 matches. Sorry lads, bottle jobs. Greek League Panathinaikos. Yeah, pretty simple here. Panathinaikos had a pretty excellent first 2/3 of the Greek season and then absolutely messed it up. The pressure ate their brains like marshmallows in the title race run-in because of the last 13 games, there were 4 hideous 0-0s. There were also 2 1-1 draws and a loss to Olympiacos, allowing AEK Athens to steal in and win. Lads, Panathinaikos had not won the Greek Championship title since 2010. These fans were probably like excited, giddy goats all season long, trembling with excitement, and so to finish the season like that, absolutely crushing. And not to mention, they also bottled the Conference League playoff against Slavia Prague. It's just, what a nightmare year. Anyway, that's the end. Let me know what do you think. Let me know in the comments below. Who do you think was the biggest bottle job this season? Let me know if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe as always. I'll talk to you in a while.